Forgiveness. The 25th of April, 2025. If you have an argument with someone, a parent or a friend, and then you both go a different way, each one of you will have a version of the argument that best suits their needs. You would remember some things that were said, and they would remember some things that were said. Each person will remember a part of the whole argument. When some people say that you need to give them time, they say that they want to process what just happened. It is a time that is needed to ensure they are on the right track. If every person has their own version of the truth that they believe, they think that something happened in accordance with their own understanding and their recollection, then both parties will need to reconvene and reassemble in order to reach a consensus and settle the dispute. If they remain separate, they would be delaying their argument's resolution until God judges between them, that is, until the day of judgment. Therefore, they are required to hasten to resolve their conflicts in this life instead of waiting for that day. Punishment on that day would be severe to those who are determined to be the culprits, because due to their transgression, the other person's life was changed and affected, sometimes severely. For that reason, those who have a dispute or an argument are advised by God to hasten the conflict resolution in order to avoid being the cause of one another's severe punishment. Forgiveness of a person's transgression is made essential in many types of rituals. A Jewish prayer to God would ask God to forgive the sins of the whole community because they forgive the sins of those who oppress them. A Christian prayer to God would do the same and ask God for forgiveness of one's sins because they have forgiven the transgressions of others. Muslims are also advised to forgive the transgression of others whenever they are able to do so. In other words, it is a sign of belief to forgive the sins of others who have caused a person harm. The moral behind the forgiveness of another person's transgression is that God would forgive the sins of those who forgive the transgression of others. If a person does not forgive another, however, a grudge would start to manifest itself in the life of the person themselves. They would hold a grudge and start building their case against the other person, sometimes even thinking themselves to be the victim, even though they know they are the oppressor. Some people would snap by the grace of God and start trying to resolve the conflict without apologizing, blaming themselves for the oppression they have done but being too proud to express their apologies. Such people would be forgiven by God only for trying to resolve the issue, even if they did not ask for forgiveness directly. Many people do not realize the impact their words and actions have on other people. It brings closure to the one who was oppressed if the oppressor so little as acknowledge their fault. You cannot fix other people. No, only God can fix them. Some people just need to be shown what they did wrong. The pride they would have for thinking that they had done nothing wrong would start to be eradicated drastically upon being reminded. They would live with the perception that they themselves were the victim, but by letting them know what they did wrong, they would be encouraged to admit it for themselves and feel the shame of their transgression. Upon acknowledging the oppression that they have done and the damage they had caused, they would be more inclined to feel guilt. When both parties were separated, especially in the beginning, no party would feel guilty. They would both think they are right in what they did, since they have not yet tasted the consequences of their actions. Sometime later, however, each party will feel how much different their lives have become after the separation. Then both of them will feel too prideful to admit their wrong, but one of them would be more willing to settle the dispute than the other. Those who begin to settle the dispute are called the people of forgiveness. Their reward is great because forgiving a person's transgression, knowing that he had oppressed you, means you do not require a recompense for your tragedy or a payment for the trauma. A person of forgiveness would forgive for no honor or status in this world. They would forgive because they know that everyone is guilty of something, and they would rather have their own sins be forgiven on the day of judgment rather than to cause someone to suffer. Upon forgiveness of the transgression of the other person, the person who forgives is essentially forsaken their earthly right of recompense by the transgressor. They desire nothing from the person who wronged them, and they forgive in order to be forgiven. They act towards people in a manner that they want to have acted upon them. They forgive people in order to be forgiven by God. It is no wonder that God describes those who forgive as those whose reward, payment for forgiveness, is from God. And those people would be called to enter heaven based on their forgiveness of others in life alone. قال الحسن قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا وقف العبد للحساب ينادي مناد ليقم من أجره على الله فليدخل الجنة ثم نادى الثانية ليقم من أجره على الله قالوا ومن ذا الذي أجره على الله قال العافون عن الناس.